Well, we now have an in-person quorum, so we can start the meeting. Today's Thursday, July 16th, 4 p.m. This is the meeting of the Community Advisory on Public Safety Commission. We're gonna first take roll call. My name is Larry Allen. I'm representing the City Council. I'm an attorney. And to my left,
Michael Burton, board member.
Okay.
Kamala Brown Sparks, board member.
Good.
Commissioner.
Sharon Weisselbaum, Commissioner.
Gail Lorraine, commissioner.
And member of the public.
Shelley.
She's my age.
Just the caregiver.
Welcome, you're still here. Lovely to have you. We have a few people online as well.
You don't want to join the commission? No, I'm good.
We have some spaces. Next, there's no need for an approval on this unless anybody has corrections. The attached is a memorandum from the previous meeting, Thursday, June 18th, 2026. You can find that in your packet. The difference between memorandum and minutes is fairly slim. Memorandum is required by law, so actively as we go through this meeting, we will take notes about everything that happens. It can be as bare bones as just having the agenda and any official votes taken on it. So this is just a memorandum. We didn't convert that to, it reads like more distinct minutes, but just FYI, so that's more for your information than necessarily approval. We do have an agenda for today. Did anybody have any additions or changes to today's agenda that they would like to move that we alter? Nope. So all in favor of adopting today's agenda, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Fantastic. Now we move on to reports. Do either of the co-chairs have a report that they would like to give?
I did not, no, that's in the.
No.
Other individual members, do you all have any reports you'd like to make?
No reports.
Okay, this is where I give a Shakespearean soliloquy if you'd like.
We're ready.
Okay, fantastic.
We gave you a lot of work to do.
Well, yeah, and so and these will be relatively short reports, unfortunately, but we do have a few updates. So first, just so you know, we had asked if you all wanted to submit feedback on the public safety report. We didn't receive anything in our email yet. The commission, obviously, you're free to do that if you'd like. So just send that to the council email address. We'll compile that and talk about it at future meetings. We just didn't receive anything, but I just want to let you all know that. You had asked about the LEAP study. That is still in progress. They have just started the advocacy or the phase in which they're interviewing interested parties among the cities. So they have gotten through their initial phase and now they're on kind of phase two, the very beginning of phase two. So that's in process. It's not much else to report there.
Do they have a plan?
Yes. Yeah, and I could share that with you all. Because it kind of gives just a rough timeline. It's just not detailed.
High level milestone.
Very high level milestone.
That would be great.
Yep. I will do that. Let me actually. While I'm thinking, I'm gonna open up my own notes page so I can actually jot down what I just did.
They'll be included in the memorandum.
Yeah, we could do that. Thank you all, very good. Next, we had talked about an incident in Bloomington where a drone or an unmanned vehicle was deployed. Person had barricaded themselves in their home and posed a threat. There was questions raised about what the city of Bloomington's drone policy is. There is a general UAV policy that we have linked in the agenda for you all to review. Essentially, the way that policy works is any of the pilots have to be licensed. They have to be fully licensed pilots. They also have to report anytime they deploy and use a drone. When we went to the data center to look at the latest updates, it looks like updates have not been provided to that list regularly. Other departments were updating things. So whenever utilities has used a UAV or something like that, some sort of vehicle or drone, they have updated that, but police and fire have not with their uses of it. So that's something, just if you go to, it is on the page there that I sent you to, so there's a link to a spreadsheet so you can see what is reported there. Uh, Law enforcement, so speaking about law enforcement very specifically, law enforcement use of these vehicles is governed by statute, at least, Indiana Code 353359 governs the use of that, and essentially it breaks down into two ways, which is not dissimilar from what we talked about last time. One is essentially it counts as surveillance or almost like a search, so almost like an entry into a home. And so if you're going to do that if you're law enforcement, you have to obtain a warrant unless there are exigent circumstances warranting the use of it. So exigent circumstances are a very special category, term of art in the law, which includes emergency situations. So if it's basically life or death, the police have reason to believe that they cannot obtain a warrant in time to prevent a dangerous situation. They likely would have exigent circumstances to use it in that case. When we're talking about the deployment here, in this particular instance, the police they sent out a press release afterwards. The way it was worded, so once they arrived on the scene, they were they were told what was happening. There was a dangerous situation. However, they did obtain a warrant, both for the arrest of the person, but also entry into the home. And so once they obtained that warrant, sorry, we have a comment online. Eric, your note taker should have already been admitted, so I show it as admitted right now. Sorry, your chat just came through. They obtained a warrant. There were two actual drones that were deployed. There was one on the outside of the building, and then there is a specialty one that was deployed by an officer that is specifically designed to be able to go indoors. And that is the one that was trying to locate the subject inside. The subject was able to hit it and destroy it. So that was actually one of the charges brought against them, is that they destroyed the property to the tune of $1,000, is that they basically threw the unmanned vehicle against the wall and destroyed it. The other one was outside and could see in and waited till the door was open to make sure it was safe this was an incident that required the CERT team to be called out. So the critical incident response team, otherwise colloquially known as SWAT teams, was called out to this situation. And so kind of to help give them some safety, they know where the person is. They were also looking for two specific weapons. This person had threatened another person with knives. So there were knives that they were searching for. So they could see if that person was armed, potential danger to themselves or potential danger to the officer. So that is more or less how this went down. So in terms of their policy, they did follow state statute. In this case, they did obtain the warrant for the use of it. There are circumstances by state law that they could theoretically use it if there's cause for that. But it seems like our police are following that procedure where they did obtain a warrant for using it. Questions about that?
Is there follow-up from city or council to have them regularly updating when they do use it, so that there is public log or record like every other department?
I don't know about that. So that was one of the the questions we have, and specifically, so who was originally watching after this was the city's risk department. So specifically because of how it would play into the city's insurance policy. So one of the calls we have out to is the risk manager to find out more information about what's being reported, what's not, whether they're requiring that anymore.
Thank you. Would it be possible to get an update on that by our next meeting?
Yes, I think so. It's more a matter of if
Understandable.
Yep.
And I'm just a point of clarification question. Was the warrant, was there a date timestamp of the warrant that was before the breach?
That's a good question. I basically have what's publicly available from that. What I don't have is the warrant itself. So I haven't been able to, because I'm not involved as an attorney on the criminal case or anything like that. I don't have access to that warrant document.
Okay.
Necessarily. We could try to find out more information about the specific timing of when the warrant is. And the reason why I'm answering it that way is I'm going off the press release as well.
Yeah.
And I love public official writing. It is often in passive voice, and so this is in passive voice. So I can't tell you with 100% certainty. But the order of operations in which it was stated made it seem like a warrant was obtained, the CERT team responded, the drone was issued or, were launched.
Sure.
And I imagine by that time, the person who was out of the house was out of danger. The person
The
who,
person who was out of the house is out of danger. There's still a question. I mean, the person who remained in the house had barricaded themselves, was reported to have been going through potentially a crisis, a mental crisis for some time. And so there's a question about whether they had harmed themselves or still was a danger to anyone.
So I'm not a law enforcement professional. Does it seem like a situation where, right? A woman has threatened male who has left the residence. And she has barricaded is an interesting term. Was the door just locked or was there?
That's a good question. Yeah, that's the term that's being used in the release.
I understand.
The reports. But
Does a SWAT team or a CERT team response to that seem reasonable?
yes, and
Okay.
the reason why I would say yes, from my perspective as I'm reading it, is because you don't quite know what that situation is, and so the way we've historically used the CERT team, it's not necessarily like just for them to blast their way into a building. It's also because they have the ability to kind of, well, one, as you all know, the Bloomington Police Department has the Bearcat vehicle, which I know is a hot topic of debate. One of the benefits to that vehicle specifically is that it can put a safety barrier between the house and any responding individuals. And so if for some reason there was a firearm involved, which I don't think they know 100% for sure at that point, I mean, they knew about the knives for sure. It creates a barrier, a level of safety. And then you have the people who are also on the CERT team are not just there for use of extreme force, they're also part of your negotiators. So they're your negotiating team to help people in crisis and to try to de-escalate the situation. So they are trained specifically in a crisis situation to respond to that. So those are the two things I would say most positively. And then, of course, if you do need some sort of breach into the house, they're also trained for that.
Okay.
Beyond a level of a regular responding officer.
I have one follow-up question.
Yep.
Is it available via public records when we would look at, to be able to build a table, maybe using AI, that says, the CERT team was deployed. And then negotiation was the tool solution used versus force used.
Yeah, so there already is another data spreadsheet on the city's website that exists currently that is referred to as a use of force
Okay.
spreadsheet.
Yep.
That spreadsheet, it's not gonna have, what it does not tell you, it does not have details about this is who the person was, this is everything that's going on. What it generally has is this is the state of the person, are they intoxicated or not, or are they having an issue? And then it does have several categories of potential use of force from non-lethal tasers, obviously firearms, deployment of special teams. So there is kind of that level. The most recent data I saw on that, because I checked that spreadsheet too before this meeting, the most recent data I saw on that spreadsheet was from December of last year. So for some reason, there's not data updated through today, 2026. That may be when they uploaded, I'm not 100% sure, so that's something. The deputy mayor had reached out after our previous meeting. And so one of my extra tasks is to follow up with her specifically and kind of have a conversation just about this is why we're looking for this information, this is what we're looking for, and try to understand a little bit better about what's updated when and why certain things are updated.
Thank you very much.
You've done a very excellent job looking into this for us. Thank you.
Yeah, happy to try to get it. And also credit to, we have two fellows on council's office. One, his name's Michael, he helped with the drone policy, and then we're gonna get into flock. And Evan, who is online, went into the flock policy, so I really appreciate that, because they did a lot of good legwork in getting what what's hopefully available and us kind of working together.
Nothing here seems like it's horribly wrong. It's just an interesting opportunity for us, for me at least, if I pressure test and. I think that maybe it's one of the things that we should be doing in this commission, is just understanding individual cases like this to see. And to find out things like, oh, that hasn't been updated since December, right?
Yep. I think that's important too, and that's what I was also trying to communicate, and what we were trying to communicate is. We're trying to get information to the public as well, so that they understand these process, because these are fairly opaque. And I know before I worked in city government and you asked me, I would have had a picture of a movie in my head with like smoke and firearms everywhere and that kind of thing. And so understanding the different tactics and what's used and how they deploy it and how it gets escalated, that's just very helpful.
It's certainly very educational for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Good.
I think that on the agenda is this very long report from what?
That one though. Yeah.
The parking commission.
Yeah,
It's just reference to the flock after we do all that stuff.
okay.
Reference to LPRs.
And I just included everything.
Thank you, yeah.
So
Page
once it was
72.
put on the agenda, I decided. There's a website dedicated to this, which I think I also linked to for the parking study. With, yeah, it's linked there, but I just, so you all didn't have to hunt for it, I just went ahead and attached the report, the memo. It is huge. It's way more information than you need. I totally
Yeah.
understand that. But I just wanted to have it in one place, since we're referencing it in the packet.
Okay,
If in the future you'd like me to pare that down, I'm happy to do
I was gonna
that.
give it, it's also nice to have if you want
Yeah.
other information, if you want to dig around.
Yeah, and it's kind of memorializes this point in time, like, this is what we talked about, this is what we were
Mhm.
considering. But all that stuff's.
but it's just enforcement technology?
Yes, yeah. I'm gonna click to that in the new business stuff.
So next, just update on the flock ALPR camera status. After our conversation, last time, as I mentioned, Evan put together some good information for us. We did have, the administration reached out after our conversation to say that the statement that they gave at city council, that report is their updated report. They kind of reiterated that to us. To go through what largely you all already know, the city announced that it's not renewing those contracts. One of the contracts had already expired. But by the time they announced they weren't renewing it, so it was good for 2 years, and it started in the spring of 2024. And it expired sometime in March of 2026, so that was one of them. There was another contract for 2 mobile units that was entered into in 2025. I just, from practical knowledge, I think these mobile units were deployed at very particular high call volume areas in the city, so outside specific apartment complexes. Those have been removed, at least from those sites where they used to be, mainly because I live near one of them and I noticed that there's no longer a mobile unit that's right outside my neighborhood. The other one I also believe has been removed, or I haven't seen it there. I don't know where those have gone in terms of, we didn't get an update about, okay, those mobile units have been shipped back to Flock, they're not in storage anywhere or anything like that. But as far as I can tell from that public, just the public viewing, those are not being used at this point. They're not deployed throughout the city. There are some differing numbers out there, so you may have seen this has been publicly reported. So if you look at the contracts that the city had, there were 11 mounted automated license plate reader cameras that were deployed throughout the city. And then there are 4 other mounted video cameras around the city. And then there are 4 mobile trailer systems that had not only license plate readers, but also could go to video potential gunshot detection. That is the contract that was ended and that was not renewed. So that those should all no longer be active in terms of actively recording data and things like that. Have they been removed from street poles? I know that it's also been widely reported that there are still existing cameras on certain areas. The question would be, whose cameras are those? And I think that that's one of the difficulties we had at even obtaining kind of an update for you about that.
There's a website that helps with that as well, but it's still kind of people based, so I think it's like, is it what the flock?
Yeah,
Not like people are.
Yep. So, and one of the difficulties, because Monroe County has some that are deployed at particular intersections, the count that we saw on, again, this is kind of a public information request that's been gathered by a university. It looked like there are 8 by Monroe County at various intersections that I don't know the details about where those intersections are. And then at minimum 5 are with IU. Indiana University has at least 5. That same source reported Bloomington potentially had as many as 40 in deployment. That does not match the contract amount, but what I have a suspicion for is some like those mobile units that we had more than one camera attached to it. And so it's potentially they're counting every individual camera as opposed to deployment. So if you had a light pole and it has 3 cameras pointed different ways, it's going to count as 3 cameras, but here it's only going to count as 1 location potentially. So that's one of the clarifying comments again. Appreciate members of the administration reaching out, but that's one of the follow-up just questions for them about how that works and if there's any more details that they can share at this point. Try to see, but to your point, there are public websites. People are just going around pointing to the,
Yeah.
hey, I see one right here.
Well, that's the
This is where it
human
exists.
based things are good, but then also there's fault in all of the reporting and things, so.
Yeah, and I think this will tie into the new business and what was also reported is the difference between potential handheld license plate readers versus automated license plate readers. I mean, it seemed to me like the parking operations, and this is true by you as well, because their parking operations use this handheld license plate readers that they use to give out tickets to monitor how long a vehicle's been in a particular space, as opposed to the old chalk method, if you remember that, like from way back in the day. So it sounds like that's the recommendation on the parking side is to potentially use those handheld ones for staff to use as opposed to necessarily automated ones, but that's gonna be a topic for conversation that we'll get to in new business. Any questions in terms of the flock camera? Sorry, that's a little bit looser of an update, but and I appreciate Evan doing great work on this.
Thank you, Evan.
Yeah, thank you, Evan. Would there be value? I don't wanna ask for things that involve just a whole bunch of business work that doesn't really have much of a payoff, but I'm curious what we think as a group. Would there be value or interest if we could get a list of all of the flock requests which were made by the police department and what their purposes were?
I'm not sure. I know other places have that available, but I'm not sure like how that process goes. And like requesting that from the specifically.
Maybe I'm not so interested in each individual request, but in their evaluation, if they think it's worthwhile, worth the money and I don't know, justified to keep some of them. We still have some in use, right?
Just wrong county.
Monroe County, oh, so.
They said they were in the process of terminating the rest of them. There was a short-term extension used for Little Five on certain things that were on Kirkwood that were used and ended up being used. And we also talked about cameras elsewhere in the city that are subject to the same thing. So they have not, if they're relying on their statement and the report given to council previously, the administration has not ruled out using this technology in the future from another vendor.
From a different company.
But I will also tell you, city council is currently exploring and actively in conversations about regulating this technology as a whole, so not limited to automated license plate readers, but anything that's AI empowered that potentially has a surveillance risk too. So there are council members who are at least in talks and working on ways of regulating that and developing policies within the city to regulate that use.
I see, so it's really a moot point right now as to whether the police think it's worthwhile.
I think what I would be interested in knowing is not as much about individual police in Bloomington, but like, were they responding to ICE requests,
Oh,
right? Were there external agency requests coming in that then we were processing?
I think there's like people, like Sheriff Marte and other people have like said they would not. But the issue that everyone was projecting was that there's not necessarily, ICE doesn't need to request. Even if there are boundaries in there, people can hack the system, people could, ICE could obtain things because of the way it was being stored. So that was more so, I think, the issue that was coming from the people in the city, that they were like, well, why this company and why? So why no boundaries? And I think the city would turn around and was like, we don't, and we will not, but it's also like been proven by many people within that company are like, I can check it right now, but you don't get anything you want. So there's a lot of like,
Backdoors?
yeah,
Okay.
there wasn't a security that could be proven, that could be stated, but it wasn't like, no one was going into audits, no one was going into, they weren't like, oh yeah, we'll prove that it's secure. People were like, let me audit it, or let's do independent audits, and there was a lot of, there's nothing, so.
Yeah, because this is one of the points also, the BPD explicitly updated the use policy, even before they gave their report to council, which stated that they would not use this technology for either immigration request or for anybody who may be exercising their right to an abortion or something like that. So those are two very explicit things that they made, that they're prohibiting all use from, at least from the BPD side, to basically kind of, I think, to thwart off at least official requests coming from other agencies for those two purposes. But then the question remains of, could the federal government then serve a potential warrant or request on Flock itself and get access to this data? And that has been another question. I will say, the Supreme Court ruling in terms of the geofencing that was occurring, so geofence search of phones also throws a wrench into this, which is now the Supreme Court has acknowledged that you need a search warrant for those things. So that ups the level of proof before the government can request those kind of things from tech companies. That may also apply to Flock. I mean, it's going to be a technology by technology thing. But certainly you could extrapolate if it applies to something like geofencing, which is anonymous data of your cell phone that's provided in the aggregate by Google or whoever, you certainly would see that then it should apply to something like Flock. So that's not me saying it's a guaranteed 100%. That's just the update in the law. So
For sure.
I'm just trying to give information just to be really
Of
clear.
course, everyone's trying to flesh out these new technologies to,
Yeah.
well, they're here and we didn't understand boundaries or how it affects stuff.
And I guess this is more of a philosophical question than about what this commission does. And its placement as an official commission for sort of council. And again, I'm new to this, so your clarification would be helpful.
No, I'm also still very new, so.
So maybe you can help.
We are,
So if an agency says via a press release, yes, we did it fine. Is it our position to accept that, or do we have, like, we're not a judicial board, right?
We're not that, yeah.
But do we have the ability to then ask additional questions, clarifications, requests for validation of that?
Yes, you do. And I think one of the things that's helpful, so just in terms of going through this is one of the reasons why we put the goals and purposes of the commission. So there's two things. Do you have the power as situated to issue subpoenas? No. Right. So just practically speaking,
Yes,
so if you're saying like,
of course.
I would like data about this, of course, you could always get the answer is no, or for here's the reason. You don't have a lot of legal recourse, but there's obviously value in asking the question, and then also in terms of providing recommendations to also counsel and presenting, hey, here's what the public thinks about what's going on with these technologies. Here are the questions we feel like are unanswered. Let's present this to council.
And these are the questions we asked. These are the responses we got.
These are the responses we got, and this is what we'd like to know more about. And then going up the chain, I think, is very important. And posing those either directly to the administration or to council themselves as a follow-up is very important. And that's what we can do as staff, is kind of relay that information.
Okay.
Or you can also do it formally. So if you all wanted to gather language about one of these technologies. So if you wanted to say something about Flock, for instance, and say, we would like to draft a resolution or a letter that would go to council to make a recommendation that they investigate further, they take particular regulatory steps, or just to inform them, hey, here's our public opinion about what's going on with this. That's a very in the wheelhouse of this particular commission way of going about that.
Thank you for the clarification, it's great.
Okay.
And I think the legislation the council's working on is like, we can, that's where like they'll take our advice or help however, but also they're working really hard on it. So if you have questions for them, too, you can always email them about what they're thinking. Because I know at least the two of them that I've spoken to have a lot of information that they've and a lot of work they've done on understanding Flock as well as what it would mean to govern new technologies. Sure, we haven't done yet, so.
Yeah, so again, this would be something if you all would like to have, just keep it on the agenda too, so as we get updates about it. If legislation's introduced and things like that, we can report back on what that looks like.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah. Any other questions, comments about Flock or anything else? Good. Are there any reports from members of the public or anybody want to give public comment? Anything in particular, if you're on Zoom and you'd like to give public comment, just raise your hand and we can acknowledge you. I don't see anyone.
That's very small.
Okay, it's just. Okay. We don't have any old business because mainly that was covered in our staffing reports. So the next piece of new business is the Bloomington parking study that was conducted by Walker Consultants, which is included in your packet.
Yeah, I haven't included it in whole, but I've read through most of it, but mainly it's page 72 about the technologies. So it's just in relation to, as we're dealing with our fallback on ALPRs, seeing someone suggests, and then I was like, what is this technology and what does it differ? And you answered that a little bit, but the pictures didn't help because it was like a car with a big gas camera. But I was like, that's not a handheld. They're just gonna drive around a car and scan everyone's information. I was like, that's, so I was intrigued on that as bringing it in and maybe reading about the technology part, just so that we have, because that would also be under the same legislation, probably, that if it involves a cloud server and storing people's information, how is that governed and where does council's legislation land that as it's coming through? Well, they're gonna raise parking prices more, but
Oh, does it say that in here?
yeah, that's what's up.
It does require active council. So.
Yeah. But there's a big one, that's why they did the study kind of to address parking prices and the infrastructure around our parking. So I just found it intriguing about, I was like, I don't know, we can have parking ban. I was like, oh, because it taps a lot of things, so. It's mainly why I wanted to include it, so that we didn't see another technology coming while we're still gonna deal with the posts of the first technology.
I'll also note, so this report was released kind of, was brought before the Transportation Commission. One of the things in your packet is a memo from Parking Services Director Michelle Wall responding to the Transportation Commission's feedback as well. This report has not formally been presented to council in a meeting yet. It's something that council's still working on, is trying to find a time when Parking Services could come and give kind of a presentation to council. I think at least they wanted to have, meaning Parking Services wanted to provide the written report to council first. So there may be a date that I would watch out for in the near future. It's not gonna happen next Wednesday, but potentially the Wednesday after that, or just before budget. It's possible that Parking Services gives their report. So these are questions that I'm happy to pass along to council as well, so that if that report happens, these questions can be answered or asked at least about the technology and how it's gonna work. Cool.
I see, I went down a bit and, I see that they actually do name all the parking garages. And, I'm wondering if that's gonna change when the new county, the new building,
Convention
what am I
center,
thinking of? The
convention center.
convention center, yeah. They're gonna have parking there too, I think. So,
Are they?
That's an open question, still, as far as the last I heard, it has been in talks about having a dedicated, are you talking about a dedicated parking garage for the convention center?
yeah,
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 so
I
I saw,
think that,
yeah, that has been part, it was at least part of the recommended. This is several years old, when we did the public charrette on the convention center, which was a long time ago. It was recommended that one of the county lots be converted, potentially it could be converted to a parking garage if you needed that extra parking. That would be through, the capital improvement board. Because that piece of property is currently county owned, and so it would be probably a county project or a capital improvement board. Project, capital improvement board, a separate entity that has members from the city that's appointed by the mayor and the county. Technically, it's a county board because they have controlling interest in it.
right,
But they are independent, and you probably also saw that they announced from this week. That they have at least tentatively selected a hotelier to go on the southern parcel, so south of the convention center on
Yeah.
current county owned
yeah,
lots, and there was mention of parking be included as part of that hotel as well, so an underground level and potentially a first floor.
okay,
So there's some parking options, and obviously we have the Fourth Street Garage, which is there to serve. A long time ago, there were
that's all.
questions about whether you connect the Fourth Street Garage to anything. I don't know that that's currently under talks. But we do have parking close by that is fairly substantial. Sorry, I'm not, it's a lot of information, but I haven't heard anything on the update about whether they're gonna build a dedicated convention center parking.
Oh, okay.
It wouldn't surprise me either way, to be
Yeah.
frank with you.
I still trying to figure out all the land and stuff, so
Yeah.
that's the tricky one.
I see.
Do you have a concern there specifically about it?
No, but, I just think that if they're sort of evaluating how many spots there are, counting spots, then that would be something to consider. It's not too far in the future.
Yeah, so this report is limited only to those that are city owned and operated, so parking
No, it's
services
county.
has no, operational control over what the county does in their county. So also similarly, like the Justice Center parking garage, which is right across the street on Morton, is excluded from the study. It's not part of it.
I see,
And I think there's 260 spots there to start.
okay.
Interesting.
Any other questions or topics of conversation? Okay,
No, we just wanted to talk about technology. That was it.
that's great. So, yeah, we'll pass that along to the city council also.
I know they're on it, so just.
Well, no,
Trying
that's
to make
great.
sure I'm
This is great.
staying with them.
I wasn't sure. Yeah, I knew technology was part of it, but if there's another part of the parking study. Accessibility was big.
And the leap study, is that still not ready to report?
Just in terms of what I said, it's in process. There's nothing finalized for it yet. They're still interviewing. Trying to gather the information before they put the study together. We're on phase 2 out of 5, I think, of it, and I'll circulate what those dates were roughly. It was like the first 2 months were kind of setting the ground, laying the groundwork, setting up what the report's gonna be. This part is interviewing stakeholders and doing some analysis. Yeah, it's a long. It's how consultants get paid.
Hey. They get paid the good money too.
There you go. New business. We had talked about this as future new business. I'm just putting it on here if you all want to have a discussion about it real quick. My thought was, so right now, Councilmember Piedmont Smith is still out. So she's on vacation and she gets back next week. So that's why she's not here today. I want to bring this up so she can hopefully attend the next meeting for you all and have a more robust conversation about this. But I just wanted to bring it up ahead of time if you had all thought about it. How you like these deliberation sessions to work? Were there any suggestions right now? And if not, no big deal, but just for your thoughts, I just want to open it up and I'm happy to provide Councilmember Piedmont Smith with whatever suggestions you have.
Yeah, I was intrigued to hear what Council Piedmont Smith's suggestions would be, because I've never done. I've been to a couple deliberation sessions for different things, but never like helped organize it or create information around it.
Right.
So like what would our role like how, like you're playing that in our meetings, is there things we can do one more way to bring back to help with the first one? Yeah. Okay.
I've just watched Parks and Rec, so
Different area.
In my tell every patent ultimates filibuster.
Ah.
To the table. So, let's see.
that was higher.
Any other thoughts?
The last time we met, I said that I was gonna contact, Beacon
Mhm.
to find out progress on the new site. And I have not been able to, I emailed Forrest Gilmore and, just the general Beacon email, they have a contact form, but nobody's got back to me. But, I don't know, it would be good to know what's going on and, um, it seems to me that there are not fewer, people, yeah, wandering around.
Need of their services.
Yeah,
Would you like that? Is that something you'd like to put on as far as maybe a number report for the future? You think?
yeah, I would like to know numbers.
Imagine they'll get back to you. They're always so quick to so many things, so I'm intrigued. Why they haven't, but I know they also are very busy. So,
Beacon,
yeah,
I don't know, maybe they don't know who to forward the email to, I don't know. I'll try Mary Morgan next.
there you go. Just knock them all off. One by one.
And always feel free to reach out to us if we can help back you up on something.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
We're hoping maybe by the next time you meet, council will have more staff at that point, maybe at least one person hired, so that would be.
oh, really, in August?
Yeah, hopefully. Knock on wood.
Okay, yeah. Get them and keep them.
Yep. Other thoughts, recommendations for future business we should be aware of, or anything else?
I guess these two deliberations should probably take up a chunk of. Since we don't know what we're
Yep.
doing.
That'll probably, yeah, so I didn't put them here, but yeah, I think for the next one, I'll just communicate to Councilmember Female Smith. Kind of, you all like kind of a structure for it, and then to be able to know where you could best work with her on it, so she'll be ready to present, yeah.
I don't know if we can talk about it while we're in a meeting, then it's, right, we can get a lot done versus.
Exactly,
We had a month and then we were like, what?
yeah, sorry.
No, don't, it's got nothing to say sorry for yet. I'm the one in the dark.
We also, I'm sorry if I missed it already in the agenda someplace, we were talking about getting someone from the call center.
The dispatcher.
Dispatcher.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that we need to have some follow-up conversations on. They expressed some
Concern about.
they're very busy, and that said that it needs to be a follow-up conversation with them. Of what the benefit and the potential is.
Well, I guess, that's a reasonable question. What would be the benefit?
Yeah, so
That's for us to kind of define, right?
it is, I think the other thing, it is just good to know how it operates and what's going on. And also the partnership, I don't think everybody understands, it's usually a magic black box that you call 911, you just assume it works and you don't know how it works and.
Sure, yeah, I know like city versus county and they cover for each other and things can kind of go back and forth. State as well, right?
Yeah, so there's overlapping jurisdictions. When you're talking about law enforcement, then there's mutual aid agreements between fire departments. In terms of where you help out in the county.
Right.
The dispatchers themselves it's a joint task force. It's managed by a city employee, but it is paid for by both the county and city, so it's all together in one. So that is a coordinated effort. And there are a lot of layers to it.
And then how would a social worker flow through that process with providing support for any particular call?
Yeah, so typically, at least what I know from the prior presentations, and again, I would rather you hear this from the actual experts
Yes,
and
of
the
course.
people
Of
themselves.
course.
Social workers will be dispatched with an officer initially, so that they're covered just in case the situation turns out to be slightly different than what they understand through the dispatch, et cetera, et cetera. Then after maybe securing and finding out on what the on the ground information is, sometimes that social worker would be left there and the police officer will peel off. And
Yeah.
to handle the
And
follow-up.
I'm not as concerned about that process. I mean, I am, but for the sake of this question. As you're being ping ponged around the various call centers. How does the request for a person who is a social worker, does that flow through with that? As that call moves from place to place?
I guess what do you mean by ping ponged around to different call centers?
So you call in, you get to county, and then that gets transferred to another.
It goes through one central dispatch. So there is no county dispatch or city dispatch. It goes through the one joint central dispatch.
Okay.
Based on where that call's coming, based on where that call's coming from, they will then deploy the nearest. So if it's within city limits, they're gonna deploy BPD first.
That makes
BPD
sense.
can't handle that, then they may call for backup. As far as I know, and just we can clarify this, that's the jurisdictional limits of also the social workers within the city limits.
Okay.
For that happening, like, sorry, I don't mean to.
No, that's great, thank you.
Yeah, I think we'll find out a lot with the leaps of changes. I don't think we necessarily have social. That's what they're trying to like, hire social workers to be the dispatch. So that we then have a better. Direction for dispatch, but then also how to incorporate the alternative. Or like whether we create one, is there a need, that's what the leads is for, is trying to figure out. Cause Piedmont Smith gave us a whole presentation on their findings from all the other cities that have created programs, and that was really cool. I don't know if that's in our drive somewhere, but. It's kind of like showed how they responded. It was like always, some people are always with the pop. And a social worker, or just the social worker, and there was like different statistics that they had gotten through all of that stuff, so that was a cool. Presentation to see.
And we have one or two social workers now.
Yeah.
I would think that you need at least one during the day and one at night.
I don't know that they work a day and night shift, but I do, part of what they do also is honestly, they do a lot of follow-up. So one of the benefits of having the social workers, and I don't think I'm speaking out of school here. One of the benefits of having social workers is not only can they respond to the immediate call and kind of help in that situation, they do follow up with those individuals. So, because so many of the calls are with somebody who maybe just needs help with services, we just need some practical support in navigating other services that are available to them so they don't get into a position of crisis. And so what our social workers are amazing at doing is that they log those and then they'll do a couple days later follow-up calls. Hey, did you get connected with Centerstone? Or are you connected with this service? And do you know about that? How are you doing? And go on for at least a little bit until they have reasonable security of knowing that that person kind of stably connected with other services. So that's one of their great benefits, is that kind of follow-up. And what it does is it actually cuts down, and this is the idea of the program, it cuts down on repeat calls for someone kind of suffering from the same type of crisis who just really needs connection to services. Very similar to how people try to lower the number of emergency room visits by maybe connecting you with, a good healthcare provider and so forth.
Okay.
So you don't have to last emergency healthcare.
So it's like the mobile response by the fire department is what you're saying?
A little bit, they're very related, not the same because they do slightly.
Right,
different
another
things,
different.
but very related types of services, exactly. And honestly, a tremendous benefit for the community. It's a really cool thing. Anything else? Well, thank you all. Thanks for bearing with us and thanks for showing up today. Like I said, I think Councilmember Piedmont Smith will definitely be here for the next meeting to see if we can get you more information on the social workers and see if we can actually make that happen or something. Okay. If that's the case, then we're adjourned and thank you, everybody.